I'm going to start by saying the following. No, I have not gone insane, and no, I have not been horrifically traumatized by what I witnessed. I am, however, much, much more wary when it comes to leaving the house at night, even here in the big city. It started when I went to a little town in Colorado called Pueblo. My mother and I had been invited over there by my aunt, my mother's younger sister. For the sake of her privacy, I'll refer to her as Marilyn. Marilyn worked as a secretary for her podiatrist husband. Perhaps because of our blood ties and the fact that both my mother and I have bizarre feet, not to mention my only pair of shoes fell apart as we were walking down the boardwalk. I got a new pair of shoes from them, but that's not really relevant. What is relevant, however, is that Marilyn and her husband took my mom and I around to a bunch of different places of interest. One of those places was an old steel mill we passed on our way to one of the few remaining drive-in theaters in the entire country. Marilyn knew from speaking with my mother about my great love of horror stories, so she shared with me a story related to the mill. Since I was stuck in that weird area of mental exhaustion where you just want to hide in a nice, dark area with just a computer screen as some sort of light, the mention of a haunted area was enough to give me the energy to put up with being in a cramped car with 3 people who were 35+ years older than me. My uncle chimed in not long after, adding something about how a demon was said to haunt the steel mill, tearing apart anyone dumb enough to blunder inside. Sure, it sounded like a cheesy creepypasta written by someone who abuses the word hyper-realism way too much, but anything was better than listening to them bullshit about the history of the area in between discussing what sort of snacks we'd bring to the screening. Tired of hearing my mom and aunt debate whether to get Boston baked beans or malted milk balls, I asked my uncle to tell me what this demon looked like. I half expected to hear it resembled the Slender Man or something. But the way my uncle described it threw me for a bit of a loop. I'll spare the overly flowery description and cut right to what it looked like. He described it as a tall, jet-black, bipedal creature with piercing red eyes. The few people who got away from it claimed its legs were ridiculously strong, capable of punching through solid stone with a single kick. Also, it had a taste for human flesh. The survivors usually got out missing body parts, mostly arms and legs. He said I could find out more by poking around on the internet about it. Well, when we got back to the hotel Mom and I were staying at, and after talking Mom into letting me borrow her computer to run a Google search or two, I managed to find something. Granted, it was at the ass end of said search, but hey, better than nothing, right? It was an apocryphal account of someone claiming to have had a similar run-in with a black, red-eyed creature over in Georgia. They actually managed to get out intact and unscathed, since the creature was distracted by a runner. The writer went on to say that the creature had no trouble whatsoever catching up to the runner, ultimately knocking the runner over and dragging them off into the woods to do God knows what with them. Needless to say, it sent a genuine chill down my spine. By some miracle, despite being a bit rattled by that story and being overwhelmed by the sounds coming from outside, as our room had a nice view of the street, I managed to doze off. The following day was uneventful, but things picked up that evening, where me, my mom, Marilyn, my uncle, and my younger cousin from Virginia, who I'll call Kevin, were sitting around a fire pit-roasting marshmallows and making s'mores for dessert. It wasn't until I found myself looking at the row of trees down by the base of the hill we were on that I remembered the story of the creature. For a second, I thought I saw a tall, shadowy figure walking along the trees, dragging something along with it. Kevin noticed I was distracted and commented that it was probably a bear or a coyote. Considering where we were, it was a likely explanation. However, coyotes aren't that big. Not to mention, bears don't normally stand on their hind legs unless they're trying to reach something or saying, "Get the fuck off my property," to anyone they deem a threat. Granted, since I live in the city, I don't see bears all that often, and even if I did, I'd probably have to go to Hollywood to see any walking around. Jokes about big hairy guys with a penchant for leather aside, I wanted to see exactly what the hell I just saw. Maybe it's because my cousin knew that I have the fighting prowess of a beanbag chair, but Kevin decided to come along with me. With a pair of flashlights and Kevin carrying a nice heavy shovel, just in case, we headed down to see what the thing was. We didn't say a thing to each other as we went after the creature. That is, until we spotted a ragged shoe with a couple of drops of blood dotting the front. Being a creepypasta junkie, I should have backed off and headed back, but curiosity got the better of me, so we kept walking. We then found another shoe, this one being covered in more blood. On and on we kept walking, finding more and more blood-soaked clothes before we ultimately found the source. What we saw is burned into my memory. Something I'll never forget. We saw a large, black shape crouched over the still, twitching body of an old, homeless man. The coppery smell of blood filling the humid night air as we heard the hideous, squishing sounds of raw flesh being eaten, and the black hands of the creature reaching in to pull out his viscera. From our spot, I could make out some key features of the beast. Sure enough, its legs were muscular, the feet long and wide with clawed toes. Just above its rear, I could see a short, bobbed tail. I couldn't get a look at its head until Kevin, the clumsy bastard, stepped on a twig. The creature froze before turning to look at us, making my heart stop. A pair of glowing red eyes, with somehow a visible shine of intelligence, were fixed on us. Its head was very clearly that of, well, a rabbit, complete with a quartet of sharp incisors, which currently pierced the kidney of the poor man laying dead. I'm pretty sure that, under other circumstances, the fact that the damn thing was lop-eared would have made me laugh. My cousin dropped the shovel and crawled back, obviously horrified. Me? I think I was too busy taking in the sight of the creature, which dropped the entrails of its victim. Or, rather, her victim, as it very clearly had a feminine build, complete with a pair of visible breasts beneath a prominent dewlap. Or maybe it was a lot of chest fur, I don't know. Either way, I got the sense that she was anything but amused that she had an audience, so, like my cousin, I backed away as well. Kevin screamed in horror as the rabbit creature threw a piece of her victim's innards at him, clumsily trying to get the piece of biomatter out of his hands or lap while backing away. The last thing I recall hearing before my mind was swept away in a blur of adrenaline and fear was the creature laughing malevolently. After that, I recall running back with my cousin, covered with the blood of the rabbit thing's victim, the two of us nearly falling into the fire pit as we ran. I held on to my mother, shaking as Kevin ripped off his bloody shirt and threw it in the fire, while Marilyn and our uncle tried to get him to calm down. Once he could speak, he did, resulting in my uncle going off to investigate. I wasn't about to talk, since I knew it would sound too insane to be true. When our uncle got back, he said he didn't find anything, which resulted in my cousin scrambling to get a better look. Sure enough, when I managed to get Kevin to speak as he got back, he had said there was nothing. We spent the rest of the night inside. I won't go into detail about what happened after that, since it's boring and amounts to the whole "we went our separate ways and tried to act like nothing happened" thing. But even as Mom and I made our way back to California, what I saw refused to leave me. Like I said, I haven't gone insane, nor have I been horrifically traumatized. I do find myself eyeing black rabbits with suspicion, though. But this does stay with me. Just be careful out there. If you're not, you might just become the black rabbit's next victim.